Hi, I'm Zuri Berry of the Boston Globe and Boston.com. With me is Bob Holmes, high school sports editor of the Boston Globe, and you're watching the Huddle, our weekly high school football show. We're through 10 weeks of the high school football season. It's basically the regular season. We still got Thanksgiving on the horizon, and of course that means we have to look at the playoff picture as it stands today. A couple of things I want to bring up. One, is Brockton back, or did they never leave? Because they're in, they just clinched the Big Three. Bob, what are your thoughts on them right now?
I think the important thing about the Big Three is to remember three. All you have to do is win 2 games. So we tend to look away from them when they lose non-league games, but they took care of business. They won the 2 that mattered, and they're in. Okay, beat New Bedford this last week, as well as beat Durfee. The other thing I wanted to look at was the Merrimack Valley Division I, as well as the Catholic Conference bids for the playoffs. Those are still up for grabs, and those won't be decided until Thanksgiving. We've got Andover playing Central Catholic for that Merrimack Valley spot, and then we're going to have St. John's Prep facing Xaverian. Bob, just looking at these 2 games in particular, who do you think is in for that Division I spot? I got a coin here. You want to flip it? Maybe that's the best way to answer that. I think the Andover Central Catholic is going to be a great game, one of those last-second things. I'm not sure what to make of the Catholic Conference. Xaverian started out the year so bad. They're still, I think, just 4-6. But boy, they're on a roll now, and all they have to do is win on Thanksgiving.
You know, I like St. John's Prep in that game. I'm just going to go out on a limb and say that. All right, we got some highlights actually we want to show you from Week 10. That actually leads us into more playoff talk. Let's take a look at this, and we'll be right back.
Wayland versus Bedford here. Wayland's Mark Bonner caught 2 touchdown passes from Matt Godard, and Brian Garcia caught another as the Warriors clinched a playoff spot in the Division III playoffs with a 28-0 win over Bedford. A huge Bay State Conference clash with Natick hosting Walpole. Natick's Troy Flutie went to work. He connected on 2 touchdown passes with Brian Dunlap in the game. He also ran for another touchdown. Walpole's Will Bolster threw 2 touchdowns in the game, including this 26-yard strike to Brad Weber to bring the score to 21-14 with plenty of time left in the 4th quarter. But Natick's defense proved to be stout. Flutie, playing defensive back for the first time this week, picked off a pass and broke up another as Natick beat Walpole, mudding the playoff scenario for Division IIA. 21-14 was the final. Phillips Exeter beat Phillips Andover 35-9 in the 132nd meeting of the 2 schools. Andreas Robinson scored 3 touchdowns for Exeter. Bishop Behan beat previously undefeated Somerset Berkeley 24-7 with Matt Allen scoring 2 4th-quarter touchdowns. And Madison Park blew out East Boston 62-20 in the Boston North. Hector Villar accounted for 3 touchdowns for Madison Park.
All right, Natick really messed things up for Walpole here, put them in a bind. Walpole obviously has to win on Thanksgiving. They're playing a tough Weymouth team. Natick playing Framingham on Thanksgiving. If you put it up to me, I'd say Natick is going to get in for that Bay State Hergert bid. What are your thoughts on this? I guess these developments.
Yeah, I think if we gave up on Natick after they lost to Wellesley, it was a little premature. Obviously, they now control their fate here. All they have to do, which will not be easy, but all they have to do is beat Framingham on Thanksgiving.
Of course, and Natick holds the tiebreaker against Walpole because of the win. So that's very important to know. Bob, looking at Week 10, is there a player or players that you wanted to highlight after the last regular season game, I guess?
Yeah, I like what Dylan Oxen did this weekend. The kid has scored 30 touchdowns for Plymouth South this year, and none was as important as the hook and ladder, which you got to love that call, you got to love that play.
We got to get that highlight.
Yeah, a 60-yard touchdown that helped Plymouth South beat Nauset and clinch the Atlantic Coast Conference.
Okay, another team that we wanted to highlight, actually, we were doing something different. Looking at the Wayland defense, Wayland actually clinched a playoff spot against Bedford this past week. Our friends at Element Productions and Metro West Subaru actually highlighted their defense. Let's take a look.
Thanks very much, Zuri, and welcome back to Metro West Subaru's High School Sports Weekly. I'm Jamita Perel. This week, the focus is on the Wayland High School defense. They're an industrious group and one of the best in the DCL.
This core group of guys differs from other groups as with their willingness to win and succeed.
We don't have one weak point. I think every single position we are strong in, and every time we play hard. Every person on our team wants to wants to win, so I think that's huge. We have no weak points, so no one's making up for other people.
We try to keep practices very fiery and intense, you know.
We approach things as the same every week going forward, and we've done that since week 1. We understand mistakes will be made when we're playing, but they can be made up with effort, and a letdown in effort is the only thing that we find to be unacceptable.
We have a lot of guys that are just willing to go at it with anybody out there. You know, we may not be the biggest, we may not be the strongest, but I think we are one of the toughest groups.
We tackle as a team, we hit hard together, so I think that's a big upside. And as a team, we're really competitive with each other, so individual goals we try to get as much tackles as each other, but that really comes together as a team. If my teammate gets a tackle, I'm as pumped as if I get a tackle.
They've come together as one unit, and they operate that way. Individuals don't need to do everybody's job. You just need to do your job, as we can function as one unit.
That's going to wrap it up for this week, but be sure to check out MetroWestSubaru.com and also check them out on Facebook. Zuri, back to you.
Thanks. So we got the Knapsack Bowls this weekend, as well as the unofficial Boston City League Championship with Madison Park taking on the undefeated Dorchester Bears. Bob, before we can even begin to think about the full slate of Thanksgiving games, what are your thoughts on these games coming up?
Yeah, the Knapsack games should be great. There are 5 bowl games, including St. Sebastian's and Governor's Academy, 2 undefeated teams. Should be a great weekend for the Knapsack teams. And also Dorchester and Madison Park playing for the unofficial city championship. Should be a great game on Friday. And let's not forget the famed Island Bowl with Martha's Vineyard and Nantucket this weekend.
Always, always fun. All right, that should do it for us. As always, you can read all of our stories on boston.com/schools. Find us on Facebook and Google+. I'm Zuri, he's Bob. We will catch you next week where we'll talk Thanksgiving.